Really?
Yeah.
Is that he tried that like 1999? It would have gone over.
If you would have did it through the Attitude Era, they probably would have just either bleeped it or something, But hopefully we don't get bleeped tonight with tonight's movie. Welcome everyone to the spoiler room. We are alive. Thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up the chair, and grabbing your favorite drink as we talk movie spoilers. And we are kicking off a new month, which means a new theme. And this month's theme is Solid Alibi. Yes, it's Solid Alibi. Films with the word alibi in them, which was fun to put together to try to find interesting films that were a variety that also had the word alibi in them. It's not quite 52 Degrees of Kevin Bacon challenge, but it's close. It's close. But tonight we are looking at what will be an interesting film to talk about. The 1946 Charlie Chan film, Dark Alibi. And with me tonight to talk about this intriguing movie is he's back with us once again. Mr. Joe Randazzo is here with us. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well. Hi, everyone.
Glad you could be here to talk about Dark Alibi. And also with me, the man who keeps coming back for more. He is braving a cold to be with us tonight. I give him mad props. Thank you, Mr. Ian Simmons, the one and only.
Hey, great to be here. Very eager to talk about this movie.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get a lot of that.
There's going to be a lot of wow. Joe, why don't you do these so well? Why don't you give us a synopsis? You probably got out of the back of a case somewhere. Yeah.
I own every single Charlie Chan movie on DVD, I'm ashamed to say. I should preface this, every Charlie Chan movie that still exists.
Right.
Because the first few were lost in the 1937 studio fire at Fox. Yeah. Okay. Dark Alibi. A race against time. Charlie Chan, Sidney Toller, must act quickly to stop the execution of an innocent death row inmate with number 3 son, Benson Fong, and Birmingham Brown, Mantan Moreland. That's pretty simple and straightforward. Not something that, again, not exactly a plot that's setting the world on fire. If you've seen enough, mysteries of the 1940s, you've seen this plot a million times. Innocent man is railroaded basically for a crime he didn't commit. In this case, it takes Charlie Chan, hearing the man's daughter plead for some help, finding out who the real
killer.
Bank robber / killer is.
Yeah.
And Charlie Chan himself is the one that finds out, wait a second, there's all these discrepancies where these people were all arrested for these bank robberies, but they're all committed in the exact same way. Yet it's always a different person, and a different person ends up and they always find fingerprints on the scene. So, yeah, it's your basic noir. Your basic noir premise. The Wrong Man. Hitchcock did it with The Wrong Man. Overall, God, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, because I mean, the movie leans into comedy more than I thought it would. I've seen this before, but I mean, I guess when I think of Charlie Chan, I think of Warner Oland, and I think of the 1930s movies. I forgot how much the Sidney Toller years kind of made an attempt at making them more lighthearted.
Yeah.
And Mantan Moreland kind of steals the show, because I think he's fantastic in a lot of this stuff. He is funny as hell. Sidney Toller, I don't know. I always felt he like these movies feel like a parody of the Charlie Chan movies, which is kind of weird to say. But yeah, I mean, basically that's it for synopsizing it. I mean, we will get into spoilers as we discuss the story, but.
So, Ian, your initial feelings with Mr. Dark Alibi.
I mean, it's weird because it's it's like an hour and 1 minute long.
Yeah.
So it does feel, it's hard to think of it as like a feature film. I mean, it feels like an episode of TV. I mean, they did a bunch of these movies. I thought it was good. It's weird because this is something that we talked about last week, and I'm sure we're going to talk about throughout tonight, but the portrayal of Charlie Chan by who's a Swedish actor, I think.
Sidney Toller.
Yeah, Sidney Toller. You know, it's weird because I don't feel like he's definitely not playing the type of stereotype you would think when you think of like, oh, it's a white guy playing a Chinese guy in the 1940s. It's not that broad, but it is kind of off because he just he just plays him almost as, don't take this the wrong way, but kind of slow, like not necessarily Asian, but just like, I don't know, he speaks very slowly and very odd and kind of stilted. But as far as him being a character, I was surprised at how, he's a controversial character because there are some people who, for various reasons, think he's a racist stereotype and he's denigrating to Asians. But there are other people who, for example, Key Luke, the very popular, well-regarded actor, people might know him from Gremlins as Mr. Wing, said, yeah, he was a hero. He was a positive media figure in a time when positive portrayals of Chinese people specifically were few and far between. They were always like the evil, conniving, Fu Manchu kind of things.
Yeah, a few of the Asian actors. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't realize I was cutting you off. Go ahead.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, there's that. I mean, I think what struck me is how not othered the minorities in this film are, because you've got Charlie Chan and you've got Mantan Moreland playing Birmingham, I think is his his driver / sidekick, and then you've got his son Tommy Chan. They have this triumvirate of crime solving, do-gooders. But when they're kind of welcomed into white society, there's no like, oh well, I guess we have to turn to this, these trio of not white people to help us solve this problem as a last resort. No, they are completely respected and accepted. It's all it's a very progressive, liberal kind of vision of how things should be in a time when the country at large was not like that really at all. So yeah, watching it in 2024, I'm like, well, this is. I know they tried to like reboot this back in like the 80s. They wanted to do like a Charlie, like a new version of Charlie Chan. And they're like, no, that's not going to work because it's problematic. I don't quite see why. Like you could cast, if you wanted to bring Charlie Chan back, you wanted to cast an actual like Asian actor and, POC, sidekicks or whatever. Yes. I think it could really work because as a piece of drama / comedy, it's almost like watching the 60s Batman. It's got that tongue-in-cheek kind of adventure, lightheartedness to it. But at its heart, it's a really cool detective story. I love the whole bit with the fingerprints and what was the mystery. And there's a really awesome shootout in these like bales in the prison, it's like storeroom. And the guy like inadvertently kills himself when the gun blows up on him. Like this is really cool stuff. So yeah, I get some people might have a problem with it, but I would be 99% sure that the people who have a problem with it also have not watched it. They're going based on things that they've heard.
Yeah, you see, that was the point that I was going to make, is that when you compare the two big characters that were done in quote unquote yellowface, Charlie Chan. And a lot of the Asian actors who were in this movie, and I've seen a lot of the documentaries that are on these, and they interview a lot of Asian people who later went on to act and said, no, Charlie Chan was a positive influence in our community. Absolutely. I think the only thing that's problematic about the Charlie Chan movies is that Charlie Chan was played by white guys. But I think that's where it ends, as opposed to the Fu Manchu movies, where not only were they Asians played by a white guy, but Fu Manchu was always plotting to kill all the white people and replace them with Asians. So you got that racist, that racist replacement theory coming out. So that's the difference between the two. Like Fu Manchu nowadays, no, you can't do it, and I don't think any self-respecting Chinese actor would take on the role, because Fu Manchu as a character, the way he's written, is racist. Charlie Chan was not written to be. He's portrayed as he's always portrayed as the smartest guy in the room too.
Mm-hmm.
His son might be a little dim-witted, and maybe if you do decide to bring back the Birmingham character, he's going to have to change too, because that might be a little too.
No, here's the thing. I don't think so, because if you look at look at the Fast and the Furious movies. Look at Ludacris. Look at Tyrese. I mean, I was watching Mantan Moreland. I'm like, yeah, you could say these are stereotypes, but like qualitatively, how are these different than a lot of the black comedic relief characters in the 2010s portrayed on on the big screen? Well, it's not flattering, but it's also not something we're saying you can't show that, it's degrading. Like it's just quote unquote culture now.
It's funny you bring that up, because I was reading a bit about Mantan Moreland, because I thought he was, as far as comedic timing and everything, reminded me, and it obviously, because he's from vaudeville, reminded me of, the classic vaudeville comedy of anybody, not just, people of color, just anybody of that time, his style and everything. And I thought he had some wonderful comedic timing, and the scene with him and Ben Carter, who this was Ben Carter's last film, those two worked with each other, and they had the indefinite talk scenes in here, which had me had me rolling. And apparently that was their shtick for a long time when they worked together in vaudeville and other movies. That was their gimmick between these two, and those scenes had me laughing. I laughed out loud. I'm like, should I be laughing at, because this is hilarious.
Why did you ask if you should be laughing?
I don't know. I just I'm like, is this, is there comedy? Would this be considered, I guess, insensitive? Is this because Mantan unfortunately ran into that during the civil rights movement? Apparently, perception twisted, and he actually got blacklisted and was no longer hired, because they said that his comedy was racial stereotyping back in the day and portrayed people of color poorly, though he had some folks come to him and go, well, no, because of how his talent was, he actually opened the door for other actors to get roles they normally wouldn't.
And this is where we're running into the sort of the same problems today with entertainment, where you look back at, say, not necessarily performers, I don't think, except for people who kind of got caught up in Me Too, but you look at movies from 20 years ago, movies that were massive hits, and you're like, oh, you would never be able to make that today or talk about it, like, because the raunchy sex comedies or things that dealt with race and what we might consider now to be insensitive manners, but these were like giant blockbuster hits. And it's not just all horny white guys going to see it. You don't make that kind of money when you have just one demographic going to see a movie multiple times. So yeah, it's unfortunate, because I'm a big fan of Mantan Moreland. He was great playing like a demon in Cabin in the Sky. He had a bit part in Watermelon Man. I think he's comedically gifted, and when I watch again, like scenes that you could say, oh, well, he's the scaredy cat black guy who's literally afraid of his own shadow, and look, his knees are shaking and you can hear his pants ruffling, and they keep coming back to them. Like, well, yeah, but how is that different than an Abbott and Costello routine when they're like scared of the mummy or something like that? It's just, I think people get caught up looking for problems, and they don't stop to consider, well, what was the actual cultural context and zeitgeist of when this stuff was actually coming out? Yes, it's probably wasn't the best, but there also were likely people who responded to it positively and saw it as just fucking funny.
They did the same bit in a Scary Movie where
I thought about that. Yeah,
the black news crew just jumps in the van and gets the hell out of there, but there's also something disingenuous about what Mark was saying, that he was blacklisted because he was blacklisted in Hollywood because the producers saw his work as looking as being portrayed negatively. Well, who the fuck cast him in those?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, this has been my eyebrow raising problem with liberal Hollywood for the last 10 years is people are saying, "Oh, it's Oscars so white, it's Me Too, it's all of this stuff." I'm like, "Who the hell's been running this town? It's not Republicans." I mean, there might be finance behind it, but if you look at the people who are, putting out these pictures and putting the sort of the social messaging and everything in this pictures, it's all very liberal. So when you're like, yeah, we got to get rid of these, pigs and abolish this terrible behavior, I'm like, well, yeah, but you're kind of talking to yourselves, aren't you?
Well, it all comes down to money. I mean, even at the end, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, it all comes down to money and what's going to sell tickets. Unfortunately, whether or not what they're portraying is right or wrong, they look at it and go, well, let's sell tickets. And
but that's sort of the point I'm getting at, Mark, is at some point, Mantan Moreland, who was in a bunch of these movies and outside the Charlie Chan franchise, he was a very popular star who was bringing in revenue from various audiences. It's when he became
He's usually the best thing in whatever he's in, as far as I've seen.
He had some of the best scenes in this in Dark Alibi. He has some of the best moments.
Well, I'll get to that in a second, but I mean, but when the cultural or pop cultural tides shift and there's a concern that there might be the money drying up, so we have to switch to a different social attitude, then it's like, well, yes, now you're problematic. And we're like, but I was like, it's like the Friday the 13th movies for Paramount. Like, we made you all this money, yeah, but go away. But no,
I was only doing what you told me. What do you mean I'm doing the wrong thing? I was doing exactly what you told me to do. So
what I loved is that there are several scenes within this, to get back to your point, Mark, where it stops being a Charlie Chan movie and becomes a Mantan Moreland movie, which reminded me of the Book of Boba Fett, when the best episodes involve the Mandalorian. Here we have, the Mantan DeLorean.
Nice. No, you're right. Some of the funniest moments are him. And like I said, my favorite moments, and after I didn't read up on Mantan till afterwards, we get a couple of scenes, folks, because as Charlie Chan is investigating, they go to the state. They don't give a name to the jail. I love it. It's just the state. It's the state. It's the state jail.
They're going to the jail where apparently civilians can just walk around.
The state jail where civilians are just walking around. At one point, Tommy Chan and Birmingham walk into literally a bailing area where where there's no guards.
Yeah, there's no guards anywhere. They're just allowed to free reign, just walk around the prison.
It's just the inmates who are not only bailing cotton and clothing, but they're given sharp objects.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, because they're talking about you just slice once this way, the job is done, and they think they're talking about a burger, but they're just talking about slicing open a bale.
I'm like, what kind of prison is this? But they're walking around, and Birmingham at 3 different points throughout the film, he crosses paths with a character named Benjamin, played by Ben Carter, and then they do their indefinite conversation, whatever, and it's some of the best moments. You can tell these two
have like chemistry.
I don't even think they probably didn't write any of it. They just had these two here, do your gimmick here. Ben, whenever Ben shows up, Mantan, come on over, and you two just start doing your indefinite conversation.
You know what? I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't written at all. They probably had they probably had little buzzwords in there.
Sure.
That I'm going to say this, and then you're just going to pop in with that. And I love that at the end, Charlie Chan does his little I talk jive bit.
Yeah.
I was going to say that was totally the Barbara Billingsley moment in Airplane. It was great.
But again, go back to the portrayal of Charlie Chan. He's really smart. He's as far as he communicates concisely, even if the tempo of the speech is slow, he still speaks concisely. Then at the end you find out, no, he's cool. He totally understands this whole thing that his son, who's like 27, doesn't get.
Well, he not only that, but Charlie Chan throughout this film is just dropping zingers against his son and Birmingham. At one point, he has some great lines in here. One of them is when he walks in, walks into the fingerprint department because he figures fingerprints are being forged, is where his suspicion is with all of this, is that fingerprints somehow are being forged. And now we're talking 1946, so it's not that easy. You can't just take super glue and some scotch tape and go, oh, there you go. They're talking about oils and everything. But he walks in, and his son and Birmingham are sitting on a bench, and they stand up when he shows up, and he goes, "You two sit down so much, you're going to give yourselves a concussion." And I'm like, what? I'm like, he just said your brain's in your ass in 1946 structure. I'm just like, wow. And he drops stuff like that constantly
on everybody around him.
Yeah.
Like he just savages everyone around him at all times. The woman that's running the halfway house or whatever, or the bed and breakfast. Yeah, he savages her a couple times too.
He's just so savage to people. It's like, wow. But we're talking about, well, this is problematic with Charlie Chan, and you hear, I've heard more protests about his portrayal of Charlie Chan than I have about, say, the portrayal of Poirot, who is French, or supposedly, or Belgium. He's from Belgium, and yet he's portrayed by an English guy. At least, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not the first. Now it's more racially.
I think that's the big.
It's more of a
it's not the language. It's the racial aspect of it.
Right. Well, no, I mean not the language, but still, you had a British guy playing someone from Belgium, and while they're very, more similar, it's still one of those to where you have one playing the other. Here it is more racially obvious, but at the same time, we're not getting Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
No, you're not.
Charlie Chan. You're right, Joe. Charlie Chan's the smartest guy in the room. He has no problems insulting anyone.
Which is why,
and there's not any. I mean, this is 20 years before In the Heat of the Night, where when Mr. Tibbs is like getting, he's talking back to people, and they're like threatening to beat him up. I mean, you're not getting it, and that's why I say this is perhaps an idealized version of a heightened sense of reality, but I think it is an ideal where people are kind of on an equal playing field. If anybody, I think, should be up in arms about these Charlie Chan movies, and this is the only one I can remember watching. My dad used to watch them all the time when I was a kid, and I half pay attention. But it's women. Oh my God! Like, okay, like you mentioned the lady who ran the boarding house. Charlie Chan's interrogating her, and she said, "And that's all I have to say." And he said, "Women always say that and then go on talking." And then there's another bit where there's a car crash and someone said that must have been a woman driver. Pop.
That's what I was going to bring up. And then he goes, no, because women are essentially sweet and wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
He comes back with that immediately after.
Because they go to this wonderful warehouse, because as they're investigating, it keeps coming back to this warehouse where June's dad, who is on death row, he went and he said he was trapped. And when they're there, they almost get hit by a truck. And that's where they drop the line. So then while they are there, another woman shows up who was at this boarding house where June and her dad were and all that. And she gets hit by a truck. And, for 1946, this sequence of her getting hit was really well done. I'm like, whoa.
It catches you off guard because you don't expect it.
Well, there's a lot of good filmmaking in here. I mean, there's the one guy, Slade, who's the guy that gets cornered in the bailing room or whatever, and there's a shootout with Tommy guns and stuff. When they finally close in on him, he's got a pistol, and he blows himself up because Bugs Bunny cartoon, someone corks the end of it. I mean, literally, they show a close up with the gun. It's all split open and stuff. But when he has the gun on the group of people, including Charlie Chan, we cut to them watching him basically kill himself on accident. It is very creatively done because they cut back to like, oh my God, he's dead. I didn't realize what I was watching till like the next moment.
Right.
But there's also the bit where going back to that warehouse, Birmingham and Tommy jump into this truck and they end up pursuing our real killer who's like shooting at them and stuff. But they're driving through these like weird carnival props and all this. It's very strange. And they back him right literally into Charlie Chan's arms. I hadn't seen anything like that before. It's claustrophobic. It's exciting. It's funny. It's kind of scary. It's great.
Well, you mentioned the great directing. It's because it's Phil Carson directing, who he's always been like in the B movie realm for the most part, but he's always done good stuff. I'm looking up other stuff of his I've seen right now. Kansas City Confidential, which is a great noir. What else has he made? The original Walking Tall from 1973 was also the same director.
He did a movie I have to see. It's called Rocky. It's not Rocky you think. It's a story. Okay, get the story real quick, and we'll come back to Dark Alibi. But the story Rocky stars Roddy McDowell, a very young one, and apparently the story is a father and son witness these farmers chase down this sheepdog who apparently is a killer who actually was killing sheep, and the dog had a puppy, and they ended up killing the dog and the puppy, even though the dad and son were trying to stop them not to. Well, they find another puppy that the farmers didn't know about, so they take it home and try to raise it. But then the dad thinks that the killer instinct is in the dog's blood, but gives it a chance anyway. And then a number of sheep show up dead, and they think it's the dog. And I'm reading the synopsis of this movie going, I need to see this.
You said it's called Rocky?
Yeah.
I have to look that up.
Is this a drama or a horror movie or what? I don't know what this is.
It's a drama, I'm guessing, but I mean,
I just found it. Let me see.
It looked wild.
It's a Western, apparently.
Yeah, I was reading the synopsis and I'm like, holy crap. And this is the guy, and Dark Alibi. This is a film that would probably be a B movie. It's only an hour long, probably be played or even as a serial, depending with its length. It could have been, because back in the day, it's a good thing. I was thinking about this just today. It's a good thing I wasn't born in the 40s, because I would take a dime or a nickel and I would be living at the movie theater like every weekend. I'd be living at the movie theater because they would do one feature film, news report, serial. They might play this and one other, hour movie, or just this. I'd be there for like 4 or 5 hours.
A lot of people did. I mean, that, yeah, I'd be right there with you.
You wouldn't
be able to podcast though about it. That's
no, but I'd be watching stuff like this, and you're right. Going into this, I was thinking Charlie would be portrayed differently than what he is, but he is a smarter character. He figures out, and what I loved about the character, the way he's written, especially with the fingerprinting theory, is that he wasn't completely knowledgeable about fingerprinting. He knew he wasn't completely knowledgeable. He had an idea. He went to the expert and had the expert doing the experimenting for him. And that guy's like, that might work. Let me try that.
I did like, I can't remember who he was talking to, but he was talking to somebody, and they're like about the fingerprints, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember those fingerprints. I'm like, do you really? Do you remember the
fingerprints? I remember that exact structure.
Yeah.
This guy's fingerprints are so different from everyone else's I've ever seen.
They've got 2 swirls on them. That's it. 2 swirls.
2 swirls.
No, but that's the other thing though, is that I love that aside from the killer, but the main villain in this movie is the ticking clock.
Yes.
Because the guy is about to be executed. if you were to remake this movie or whatever, they'd make it a point of their like the warden would be like the racist warden and be like, I'm gonna obstruct you from figuring this out because this guy deserves to die and you're Charlie Chan. But everybody was very supportive of him and very sympathetic to his case. He kept running up into obstacles of like, look, there's no way you're going to find evidence about it. But they weren't being dicks about it. They're like, no one could figure out how this would work. And even Charlie Chan, he kept coming up to these parts where like, well, I might have to give up, but I'm going to try this one last thing. And then that would lead him to something else. Again, it's just so strange what listening to the kind of social commentary and the myths around these movies, and then to actually sit down and watch one and see how this is the kind of storytelling I would like to see more of today, where it's not everything is so on the nose and you've got different kinds of antagonists playing against our hero than the stuff you might expect.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too with Charlie, I mean, throughout this, him figuring it out and constantly going back to the fingerprints, because that's about all he's got, because these guys pretty much were pushed through the system and just like, yep, oh, nope, their fingerprints, never mind their alibis, or they say they're innocent. Nope, we got the fingerprints. There you go. They're all about the fingerprints. At one point, he requests the fingerprint cards. And you've got the guy who shows up and he's like, Charlie posits a question. The guy counters with, well, no, it can't be like that. And then he goes, well, what about this? He's like, well, okay. They hesitate, but at really no real point do you get outside of the one showgirl who would not give up her fingerprints or
he tricks her anyway.
Huh? And he tricks her anyway. Otherwise, I don't remember too many places where Charlie Chan where someone just told him outright no. The dancer, the one woman said no, and then he's like, "Oh, here's my card," and she grabs the card and looks at it and goes, "Oh, you're a government worker, yeah." And then he picks it up by the sides and go, "Now I have her fingerprints," and I'm like, "Oh, damn."
But I will say, I know this movie isn't very flattering towards women, but she knew her stuff. She knew exactly that she didn't have to hand anything over to him, and if he wanted her information or her fingerprints, he'd have to go, get a warrant or have or arrest her, and he couldn't do either
charge
of those
me with
things.
something. Are you gonna charge me with anything? No, goodbye.
Yeah,
right. She wasn't just the bubbly blonde, like, oh well, I guess you asked me for my fingerprints, so I have to give them over. No, she was, which made me wonder about her history and like why she was so good at knowing the law.
I mean, you couldn't flat out say it, but probably prostitution of some kind. I mean, she's, a showgirl who's,
She was the one with the feathered dress where he pulled out the feathered dress and he was like, there's not much here on the dress.
Yeah, probably solicitation or something, but they just weren't going to say it. It's like when you watch any movie from like the 80s where like a hooker gets arrested and she goes, I know the law by now. Like this is the 18th time this month you brought me in.
Speaking of which, I think it was I don't know if it was the warden or some other authority figure, but they were kind of incredulous about this idea of the fingerprints. And he said, but Charlie, the law doesn't frame men.
Because that goes back to this is not a pre-code movie,
right? You
can't portray the law as being corrupt, so you have to have the line in there that way. But
it's not.
We'll see how that works in Alibi next week, which I'm looking forward to. So we'll see if that's a little different.
Well, one of the characters we have in here who at first you think is Mr. I mean, he's the good-looking guy. He was cast for probably his looks, and he's friends with June, and he's a guard at the prison. And it was interesting to see how he ends up involved in the story. This is the spoiler room, folks, to where Charlie puts all these pieces together and you're like, oh yeah, it's Slade. It's, here we go. He's the one that did the setup and all of that. But then Charlie's like, yeah. But how were they getting all of these things out of the prison? And he just walks right up to Hugh and he goes, Yeah, you.
And by the way, what's with people named Slade being criminals like these last 2 weeks? Like,
I don't know.
1940s, you run into anybody named Slade, stay the hell away from them.
Well, and also like Lady Scarface, they had the movie opens like so many of these older movies we're watching. There's a shadowy figure with a gun, and then also the safe cracking, the crime in progress. That was fun to see. I love that at the end when our guard character is carted away, like right before that, everyone's standing around congratulating each other on cracking the case. June, the daughter of Mr. Hartley, whose father has just been exonerated, she's all like lovey-dovey with this guard guy because she's like, oh, and he protected me and he's so great, and they're like embracing like they're gonna get married. And then 2 seconds later, guard guy gets hauled off to prison, and then the other like really old bespectacled dude steps in. He's like, and now we're gonna be together. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, wait, what?
And Charlie Chan goes, oh, and he walks away, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck just happened? That was the quickest episode of The Bachelorette I've ever seen.
Any port in a storm, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't quite that was the one thing I didn't quite understand, and you could tell it was done as a bump dump type, ending to the show, and you're just like, okay, I don't quite get the joke. But the other thing that I couldn't quite get was, so what sparks the idea, folks, that that they're on the case for these fingerprints actually getting forged is the one woman who gets killed that we mentioned, that on camera actually, who gets run over by the same truck that tried to run over Charlie Chan and company. When she gets killed, she has a purse, and they don't touch the purse, and they find the purse, and they find fingerprints for a guy who's still in jail, who was just got out of jail, but nowhere near the scene, but yet his fingerprints are on the purse. But apparently Charlie calls the boarding house, and they say, well, she didn't leave with her purse. So I'm like, well, how'd she get her purse? When was the purse picked up? Because the play at she didn't leave the place with her purse, but she had her purse. Where's the scene where she either was given her purse by someone or something? How'd she get her purse?
She's a woman. She's got multiple purses, don't you know? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I
got my boarding house purse, and I got my truck running over people purse. And, those wacky dames. No, I don't know. But I don't know, Mark. I'm not sure how that might be a plot hole, or I can't figure it out.
If there are any 1940s dames listening right now,
yeah,
we can shed some light on how she may have gotten the purse.
I was looking at our analytics, and that is not the demographic that listens to our show.
It's not women. It's not women that are over 100 at this point because they would have had to be an adult in the 1940s.
No, it's not them. Sorry. But even still, you guys are right about the filmmaking part of this. For the type of film it is, it's you consider it a B movie film, whatever.
Oh, definitely.
It's actually a well-crafted noir story. I mean, like I said, not only that hit, which still the way they edited that, I mean, you see the truck coming at the woman, and then they do a reverse angle cut to where the truck is kind of turning, and you see her flopping body roll out. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like, that was really good. For 46, I'm like, that was really good. And then some of the other scenes too, that they had in there, like the prison scene where our guys end up getting locked in a prison cell, which again, another positive portrayal, because we have the two guys who, Tommy and Birmingham, thought were going to kill Charlie Chan. And then once they accidentally, because as we said, civilians could just walk willy-nilly in this jail, this state prison. Apparently they get locked in with inmates. No one seems to be rushing to get them out of the cell. They show up, and Charlie shows up at the cell with them, and they're locked with the two guys who they thought were plotting to kill Charlie, and they're like, the one guy goes, "Oh, hi, Charlie," and Charlie's like, "Oh, hey, I remember you," and he's like, "Yeah, he put me in here," and it's just like, it only took the greatest mind ever to actually capture me and put me in jail, and I'm just sitting there going, I did not expect this exchange of dialogue.
Yeah, you got Charlie Chan super fans in the prison. It's great.
And that are people he put there to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, and that Slade guy, because we see him a couple of times throughout the movie before his big shootout.
Mhm.
And Joe, you've seen all these movies before. I got the feeling, if this isn't the case, I wish it were, but it almost seemed like he was a character from another movie that Charlie Chan would have put away in one of his other kind of adventures, and they brought him back.
It was a different actor, because I didn't remember it. I think I think these movies, and you get into like because you can't really be episodic and have like direct sequels like that at this time, because you're going to see whatever movie. The movies, I think, are only related by the fact that it's Charlie Chan, either the number 1, number 2, or number 3 son, and whoever else. And I think that's where it all ends.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, sometimes they even have actors come back but playing different parts. I mean, it's the 40s. There's no home media. Once a movie's made and shown in theaters, it gets thrown in a vault somewhere. There's no television's in its infancy.
Mhm.
And you might not see another Charlie Chan movie for 6 or 7 years. Because you might be going to some other movie and there's a Charlie Chan movie playing before this. I haven't seen one since 1939.
Yeah,
so they really couldn't do continuous stories like that.
Right, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that it's a sequel, but almost like a proto Easter egg. That's just the feeling that I got, because they were in a prison and there was this guy who seemed to know Charlie Chan. Like, that'd be interesting if he was one of his.
It would be. I
Rogues
don't
Gallery
remember
or
who it
something.
was. I mean, it might be. For all I know, it might be, and I just never caught it. He might have been a side character somewhere.
But again,
either that or all the villains he ever put away were named Slade.
Or it's similar to the other character that I mentioned, who Charlie reminds me of, is Poirot, to where he's just the greatest, everybody knows this guy as the greatest, mind to solve mysteries. Charlie Chan in this, area is the greatest mind. So people just know him. So he's put away so many people that he just runs across these people like,
it's Charlie Chan, it's Hercule Poirot, it's Sherlock Holmes, it's Mr. Moto, Mr. Wong. There's a lot of them.
Once again, team up movie.
All
these characters back.
All these characters are gonna, if they're not in the public domain already, are going to be soon. Yeah, just get them all. Get all these characters together. But this time, actually cast Asians for Mr. Wong, Mr. Moto, and Charlie Chan. Don't just get a white guy and put him under makeup.
Or you just switch up completely. You have a French guy playing Charlie Chan, a Chinese guy playing Hercule Poirot, and then just like mess with everyone. You just call it it's canceled cases. The movie.
Canceled cases. One of the characters that shows up early, who I thought was a villain just because of his look, was I think his name is Johnson, Milton Parsons, the guy whose eyes were big, who looked like he belonged in like a Hammer horror or something, because he showed up and he's like, his eyes are big. And
I've seen him in a few movies. God, there was one of them. I'm trying to remember. One of them was on a Warner mystery pack, but he's always playing like the weird butler or something like that. That's always he's a red herring essentially in everything he's in.
He's always a red herring.
Because when you look like that and you walk out there with your eyes open like this, looking like spooky. I mean, I'm wondering if that's the. I mean, I don't know if that's the prototype of like where that character comes from that you've seen redone in so many ways. Oh man,
like in Pieces, the groundskeeper guy,
like groundskeeper guy.
Groundskeeper is what's his name?
Bluto.
It's Bluto.
I call him Bluto. I always call him Bluto, but that's because I remember that's what I first saw him in.
Well, that's the first movie I saw him in too.
But Milton Parsons, his Johnson character, shows up more than once. He shows up at the beginning, and you're like, "Oh, that's the guy." And then he's in the warehouse later, and it's hilarious. Charlie is like in the room with him, and he's trying to talk to him, and he's acting like he's deaf. And then he turns around, he's like, oh, and then he goes, well, I've got a sinus issue. And I'm like, wow, that's a lame excuse, but okay. He goes, I've got a sinus issue, so it makes me difficult to hear. And so then Charlie yells really loud to talk to him. And then there's this great gimmick to where Mr. Johnson sits down and he goes, Charlie Chan pulls out $1 and he tells his son to watch. And he drops the $1 on the floor, and the guy, because it's a silver dollar, and the guy turns and he goes, oh, not as deaf as you're portrayed. And the son picks up the $1 and goes, oh, and he put it in his pocket, and Charlie goes, it's my $1.
It was your idea, but it's my $1.
Your idea, but my $1.
So good.
Oh, it is. This story is fun. It's a fun mystery. It's got a lot of comedy, and it does get a little bit darker moments, but the cast they have in here is talented. Even with all the jokes and comedy in here, the story itself is played straight as far as the actual mystery goes.
Yeah, you just have a lot of comic relief.
You've got comic relief in between, but the mystery itself about, the murders and, suddenly it gets involved that it's not just this guy, it's 2 other people who were set up, and this whole scheme, it's like, wow, this is, I'm watching it and it's stories that feel like this is far more involved than I thought this is going to be.
Yeah.
Ultimately, a lot of these movies are fun. When you get away, like the Warner Oland ones in the 30s were a lot more serious. But when they got out of the stereotypical drawing room mystery, and they did like Charlie Chan at the Opera, where you have a crazy Boris Karloff running around, and some of the other ones here, they get to be a good amount of fun, because these later on don't take themselves as seriously.
Mm-hmm. They're still fun, and there's still murder mysteries in that, but they're definitely more in a comedic vein, almost similar to Glass Onion in many ways, and in Knives Out, to where you've got this kind of the serious murder mystery storyline, but at the same time, you've got the comedy worked into it.
But he was also Phil Carlson, Kansas City Confidential, Ben. He made some thrillers, some mysteries, some horror movies, some noirs, but he also directed a lot of the Bowery Boys movies. So he had that comedic instinct down from doing those. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that this movie would have that balance, like almost perfectly. Talking about a guy who made one of my favorite noirs ever, and then would turn around and do the Bowery Boys movies at the same time, because he was just working for Monogram. So yeah, he does get that balance kind of perfect in this, which is weird because you'd think it'd swing one way or the other, but no, he nails it on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sidney Toler would go on to do 3 more Charlie Chan films that year before passing away, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, just like Warner Oland. Warner Oland played Charlie Chan until he died. The role was recast with Sidney Toler, and actually a little bit of history. The movie started to be made at Fox. Mm-hmm. First couple movies, the first 2 movies were lost in the 1937 Fox fire, where a reporter on the scene or asked the guy who was running things, was anything of value destroyed? He said, just a couple of old movies. So that is the fire, more so than the big MGM fire in the 60s that destroyed a lot of the silent era films. It's believed a lot of Theda Barris stuff was in there too, and her stuff basically is non-existent anymore. Warner Oland played Fu Manchu, then played Charlie Chan until he died. Sidney Toler was recasting, continued the 20th Century Fox series until eventually the rights, I don't remember why, but the rights, Fox didn't want to make any more of them, and maybe they weren't making as much money anymore. So Sidney Toler bought the rights and then took everything over to Monogram, the low budget studio, and
played it
there until he died, and then he was replaced by Roland West, who did not do many of the movies before the series was just basically put to rest.
Sure. Well, if any of the other ones are like this, I may seek the rest of them out.
There's one that you guys might find really, really interesting called Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Takes place in San Francisco, where a killer using zodiac symbols is running around.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember seeing that and be like, wait a second. What's going on here? But yeah, I'm wondering if whoever the Zodiac killer was, Ted Cruz, if you're listening, if you can let us know if your inspiration was the 1940s Charlie Chan at Treasure Island.
1939 Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Wow. Cesar Romero is in that.
Yeah, Cesar Romero's in that too.
Wow. Okay.
That one's interesting because of the wait a minute. Did the Zodiac killer, whoever was the Zodiac killer, see this movie and like decide that he or she they were going to commit these horrible crimes?
I want to see a cut of the David Fincher Zodiac movie where the killer comes out of like an art house theater in the 70s or whatever with Charlie Chan double feature.
Yeah, two old Charlie Chan movies. Or he's watching it on TV at home because it's the 60s.
Yeah, there you go.
I got a TV. Yeah. He's like, oh, wait a second. This gives me an idea.
Put that on that independent TV channel, and they happen to be playing it. There you go. It goes, hey, that's a good idea. I found my inspiration.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it's on YouTube. I have the DVD here somewhere, but I think it's on YouTube also, so you could check that one out. That was the one that really like gave me pause. Like, wait a second, did this actually inspire actual murders?
Man, you never know. But
I guess now it's too late. Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to find out anything now, but.
We need a detective to figure. Oh my gosh, there you go. We go super meta. We have a new Charlie Chan movie about the guy trying to solve the Zodiac murders by uncovering the mystery of the connection to early Charlie Chan movies.
Yes.
Charlie Chan, the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, Charlie Chan's number 2 grandson.
Yes.
Why not? We're all about legacy and IPs nowadays. I mean,
There's something to this. Yeah.
Might be in the public domain soon. I don't know when Charlie Chan goes into the public domain. It's been around for a long time.
And again, the spoiler room comes up with some speculative fiction. Folks, we should just change our name to our podcast and just come up with alternate versions and sequels to films.
I do like Joe's title, though, for the next Charlie Chan movie. Charlie Chan goes to the public domain. He teams up with Steamboat Willie and
Pooh.
And Pooh. There you go.
Which the trailer for Pooh Blood and Honey 2 dropped. So
I didn't see it yet. Yeah. I haven't seen the first one yet. I have it on DVD somewhere.
I
picked up the DVD because the DVD was like $10 cheaper than the Blu-ray. And I'm like, I feel like I don't need to have this one on Blu-ray.
No, you don't. It probably will look better not in high definition.
Yeah,
it'll look.
And actually, these have never been released on Blu-ray. Not a single Charlie Chan movie.
I can't imagine why.
I wonder if they can't get the original prints anymore, and what they have is just either VHS video rips from the prints, or
I mean, the ones from these look pretty good. I mean, some of them have that little thing at the beginning that says, these are this DVD was printed from the best available sources. So
sure,
you get that, but there's nothing you can really do about that.
No, I mean, it boils down to just like Return to the 36th Chamber. I have 3 different copies of it on DVD, and they're all pretty much the same rip of the same VHS tape that has the same glitch in the same place on everything.
But you say that the Charlie Chan movies. I wonder why they're not on Blu-ray yet. Blue Underground put out the Christopher Lee Fu Manchu movies, so
yeah, I mean,
they're on Blu-ray.
That's true.
So it's weird what some companies will go for. I mean, it's probably just going to boil down to who's going to buy it.
Yeah.
Because who's nostalgic for these 1930s and 1940s mysteries, except psychopaths like me who are just like, yes, I need to see it because why not? Because it exists, so I need to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, though, like watching this on Amazon Prime, which, yes, folks, you can check this out for free on Prime if you've got that service.
Most
I mean,
of them,
it's a great commercial for wanting to see more of these. So I would absolutely buy a Blu-ray version of this. Did Blue Underground, by the way, when they put out the Christopher Lee Fu Manchu movies, did they call them Chew-Rays?
Oh wow! No, but they missed an opportunity there. But you're right.
To get sued and canceled. Yes, probably.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. But hey, controversy. Eddie, there's no bad press in Hollywood. Anyway, yeah, no, Amazon Prime actually has a number of these Charlie Chan films from the 40s in there.
Does it have Charlie Chan and Treasure Island?
I'm not sure if it does.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
I'd have to look, but I mean, I saw a number of them listed there. Yeah, well, rent and buy. It doesn't say for sure, so it might not have that one. But there's random ones on there that showed up in the list once I finished this one on Amazon Prime. There were others that showed up as, hey, you could rent these if you want. So yeah, we'll wrap it up here. I mean, we're almost going as long as the movie, but I'm going to say maybe it's just because I've got no place to say or anything, but I didn't find this film as problematic as I expected it to be. I'm not saying that that there aren't things that you could point out, but at the same time, it was surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be overall from start to finish, really.
I'm with you on that. Like I said last week, the movie itself, like what's in the movie, I didn't feel, having seen all these, Charlie Chan has never been portrayed as a character that's evil or portrayed Asian Americans in any like negative light. Mm-hmm. The only problematic part to these movies is that it's a white guy in quote unquote yellow face. That's the only part of it of these movies that I think are actually problematic, because the portrayal of Charlie Chan, he's never portrayed as stupid. He's never portrayed as evil. He's always the smartest guy in the room in every one of these movies. Mm-hmm. So take that for what you will.
And he's respected. He's respected by most of the people. Most of the characters in the film.
All the characters in the film have an abundance of respect for him. He's except for even some of the criminals do. I was going to say except for the criminals, but even some of the criminals in this movie had respect for him. So this is one of those things, to reiterate what Ian said. If you get an Asian filmmaker, Asian screenwriter, Asian lead actor, why not reboot this series? Mm-hmm. Reboot the Charlie Chan movies. You might as well, because it's an IP that could fit into that, get a demographic of people that will come out for it who are seeking representation in some cases. So why not just do it and do it correctly this time?
I would caveat, I don't necessarily think the actor, for sure. I don't think the director or the screenwriter necessarily has to be Asian, especially if you're, because I think that's kind of it's almost a colorblind thing. If you look at Charlie Chan, the movie Dark Alibi, aside from the accent, I guess, and his traditional sayings or whatever, there's nothing particularly Asian about him. You could slot a white character into the Charlie Chan part. It could be Charlie Jones, and the case of the Dark Alibi, and there's nothing particularly ethnic about it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I understand, because nowadays in Hollywood and comics and everything, you can't, or it's frowned upon to like have a predominantly black cast or character or whatever if you've got like white people behind the production. But this is also something that if you look back 20, 40 years, you had movies that are beloved featuring black casts or multi-racial casts who are directed and written by people who are not that. So yeah, it's a weird time, but I guess every time is a weird time. So yes, watch Dark Alibi, explore Charlie Chan, especially if you've never heard of him and have only heard like the bad stuff. I dare say you're going to be surprised. Positively so.
the portrayal here is not, the portrayal of Fu Manchu. It's the complete opposite.
Well, I look at it this way: if you take the story of Dark Alibi and put it in a pulp novel and read it, nobody.
Well, that's Charlie Chan started out as a
Right,
character in a novel,
right.
a series of books. Yeah,
Right.
By Earl Biggers, yeah. And actually, we're even at the point now where would the Charlie Chan character, the modern Charlie Chan character, even have to have an accent?
No,
because we're so many generations in that. Yeah, you could. I mean, even Tommy Chan here, he doesn't have the stereotypical, Chinese American accent. He's speaking, perfect English. So,
and that's I mean, we can tie ourselves up in a knots all night, but I mean, who cares if he has an accent? I mean, you could have a character who I'm saying if you were to remake this today, you could have an Asian actor playing, say, an Asian immigrant to America who became a detective and he has an accent. Like you'd see if you talk to any kind of person from a different country who moves to somewhere else and tries to interact with the native population, they're not going to speak the perfect, version of that native language. Yeah, people are just, I'm going to say it, way too fucking sensitive and worried about tripping over a fence nowadays. They just need to chill out and watch more movies from the olden times to see that things were different than they might have been led to believe.
There's a legitimate attempt here at making, at portraying Asian Americans as just normal everyday people,
and that's the thing,
because they were. It's funny. I mean, that's the thing. Like you could almost see this as positive propaganda. Like, hey, they're not like they're not the other.
Which a lot of the Fox DVDs had like a little documentary at the end of it, and a lot of times they would be interviewing, either actors who were really small children. Like in some of the early movies, Charlie Chan had like this huge family. And he had like all these little kids, and little kids are all grown. It's now the 2000s, so they're all in their 70s, and they're all talking about. No, we felt that the way the portrayal was actually a positive one. So, yeah,
it's hard to say. I will say, yeah, I was surprised by this in a positive way. I dug it. This is just a basic murder mystery. It's very lean, yet it tells a complete story. It tells an intriguing story. There are some twists and some surprises overall, and with just an hour and a minute, it tells a good murder mystery. It's a fun,
it breezes
pulpy,
too because of how it breezes too.
Just how
short it is.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the comedy actually hits. It's not just dated. There's at one point where they sit there and someone takes a shot at Charlie Chan while they're driving to the prison, and Charlie Chan's son goes, "Oh, the car's running on remote control," and suddenly Burning Hand pops up. And goes, it ain't remote control. I just don't want to catch a bullet or something like that. It was.
He just ducks down, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he just ducks down. He keeps driving. He just ducks down.
He's driving. And he's fine.
Well, there's that great line that preceded the gunshot, which is like, "Is this the shortest way to get to the prison?" And then Charlie Chan says, "The shortest way to get to prison is to commit a crime."
Yeah, he is. He's savage throughout this whole movie, and
the great last point. But to kind of what you guys are saying about the runtime. If you were a maniac and you wanted to cut out the comedy with Mantan Moreland and all that stuff, you would still have a 35 to 40 minute, really tight, great detective murder mystery.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna harp on it again, but Argyle is 2.5 times longer than this movie, and it's got about an eighth of the entertainment value. And you can watch this for free on Amazon right now.
I have not seen Mark's review yet. I saw that it was posted. I don't care how good that movie is. I am not going to see it. If Mark were to tell me right now that if Orson Welles were to rise from the grave right now and tell me Argyle is now the greatest movie ever made, forget Citizen Kane, Argyle did it, I am still not going to see that movie because of the 6 months of having to see that fucking trailer before every single movie I went to see. I don't care how good it is. You can tell me it's the greatest movie in history. Fuck you for doing that to me. I'm never gonna see it.
Well, then the trailers, they did you a favor because I'm not gonna be the one to say, oh, go see it, please.
I'm just trying to figure out why this is the second time today Orson Welles' name has come up in
just in random conversation.
Yeah, in conversation. Well, we were talking about here's how my brain works. We were talking about Transformers the movie soundtrack. And then that led to Orson Welles. My buddy goes, well, what was Orson Welles' last film? And I go, Transformers the movie. And we go,
was that the last one?
I believe that was his actual last one. And then we joked about how Orson Welles probably didn't know what movie he was even reading for. He probably was just reading the lines and go, yeah, just read this.
I know he there's recording of him talking about like the shitty dialogue he had to read for Transformers the movie. There's audio of that.
Well, someone told him he was going to be playing a planet-sized monster. He thought they were just doing a documentary about his life, but anyway, sorry.
And with that, we're going to end it for the evening, folks. Rosebud is crying in the garden. Thank you very much, Ian. But as always, this is where I give my friends their license to shill, where they can tell you where you can find their wonderful stuff at when they're not here being wonderful guests on my show. So go ahead, Joe. You are first. What do you got to shill?
I'm going to be on the Literary License podcast again. We're going to be discussing. This one's recording next week. We're going to be discussing Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful. Those are going to be the next two movies we cover there. That as far as shilling anything I can talk about, that's it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you guys something after we shut down.
Sure. And Ian, what do you got to shill? You got few things.
Maybe I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and also on YouTube. Just look up Kicking the Seat. Let's see. Got a live stream coming up on Wednesday night talking about Argyle. I can't wait. The interview I alluded to last week is live on the YouTube channel. It's with Sergio Martino, the great Giallo director. Other random things coming up, some things in the works that I don't want to jinx. But I'm also fighting off a cold. That's what I'm doing. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you staying here. We won't keep you too long. And for me, specialmarkproductions.com for all your movie man needs. Not only can you find past episodes of the Spoiler Room there, not only on your podcast feed, but at our website, but you can find the interviews, which I did a few in the last couple of weeks. I've got 5 interviews live now up there, and as well as one coming up soon. I just dropped 7 reviews on the YouTube channel. They're going to be releasing over the next 7 days. The first 2 dropped Underground for a found footage film that is exclusively on Screenbox TV, and then a short film called Is This the Bed We Lie In, which is a really interesting short film. I've got a few more coming up, a written review coming up later this week for the indie film from Michael S. Rodriguez called Daisy. It's a creature feature. And also teasing a couple other things in the works that I don't want to jinx, but let's just say there may be a film festival coverage coming sooner rather than later if I can work it out. So we'll see what happens. But all of that on specialmarkproductions.com. Find links to Ian and Joe's stuff in the body of this description of this podcast. Thank you for the live listeners who tuned in tonight. And until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone.